True or false? Tom Brady story is the most important and most annoying thing in the NFL right now. True or false?
I would say true. That's exactly that's the best way to phrase it. I'm annoyed with it. I actually had a moment earlier in this week that I looked at the clock and I looked at the calendar. I was like, wait, we're not going to get an answer to this for another 2 weeks. But there is an element of, when you get to these little pockets in the sports calendar before March Madness, before the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and baseball, where there's not a lot going on right in the late February, early March range, it's nice to have something to talk about in the sports world, so I appreciate that. But yes, it is also very annoying because we're talking ad nauseum, and guess what? I still think he's going to be going back to the Patriots, and we're going to be like, what were we talking about for the last 3 weeks?
Well, if he does, I hope that it's not until the latest possible moment, because I don't consider it annoying, because I'm a businessman. I'm trying to do business, and my business entails covering the NFL, and it is an important story, and it is a story in which there is a ton of interest, because I can see in real time what people are reading, and they lap up the Tom Brady stories.
Wait.
They want to know what's going on with Tom Brady. What?
That's interesting. So you're saying people are clicking on Tom Brady stories?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Listen.
I rest my case.
We've been down this road. There's no case to rest. I rest my case. I'm in the business of covering the NFL. The biggest story in the NFL right now is Tom Brady. So you shut up, sir.
I'm just saying. This is how it goes. This is how it goes. When you have a story that gets the clicks that people want to read, the stories start getting, coming out of thin air. People say this, people say that. We then have a day worth of content. It's how it works, Mike. How can you not see it?
Well, right.
Half of this stuff is just plucked out of air so that people can write about it. That's how this works.
Well, right. Well, how long have you been in this business? By the way, you're in this business. You benefit from this, Penn National, okay? You benefit from people talking about this stuff and thinking about this stuff. And at least there's something ultimately at the core here to discuss. This isn't Ron Jaworski saying Colin Kaepernick could be the greatest quarterback of all time and ESPN milking that into 4 days of content because of all the people saying how crazy Ron Jaworski is to say that. This is not something that's been made up out of whole cloth. There is something there. Tom Brady is careening toward free agency. We're trying to figure out what's going to happen. He seems to enjoy very much that he's in the middle of this conversation. So, yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're on TV right now. I don't understand why you're biting the hand that's feeding you.
I'm not biting the hand that feeds me. My job is to point out obvious truths when you can't see them, and I've done that.
Oh, I see the truth. It is obvious. That's why we don't need to talk about it as much as you seem to like to. All right, next up, ESPN could have interest in Phillip Rivers for the broadcast booth, Monday Night Football. True or false? Rivers in the booth in 2020 would be more interesting than Rivers on the field in 2020.
Ooh, that's close. I actually will say true because I'm worried that Phillip Rivers will not get a starting job. So being on the field in 2020 might be standing on the sideline holding a clipboard. So I'll go with true.
Wouldn't do it. Yeah.
You wouldn't do it? All right.
No.
Okay.
Franchise quarterbacks don't hold clipboards, baby. They either play or they walk away.
Yeah. So, I guess then I still would like to see Phillip Rivers in the booth. He's the perfect guy for the job because he's got an interesting accent. You know he'll never swear. He's never sworn in his entire life, so you don't have to worry about that. And I think he has a good perspective. I mean, he's been around forever. He's seen the game evolve. He's seen the game change. I would love to see Phillip Rivers in the booth. I would enjoy that very much.
Yeah, I would too. And I think it would be more interesting than him on the field. Unless interesting on the field is in the Jameis Winston sort of way because of all the interceptions that Phillip Rivers threw last year. 7 in a pair of primetime consecutive games. And there's a thought that the Colts are going to go after him. Peter King made the argument the other day. They're not going to spend big money on Phillip Rivers or anyone else. And, my first thought when the Chargers announced that Phillip Rivers was hitting the market is I don't think there's anybody that's going to just back up the truck and say, here's $25 or $30 million. Because we've seen that there has been a disintegration in the skill set over the past year or two. All right, true or false? Neither Cam Newton nor Christian McCaffrey will be on the Panthers next year. True or false?
I'm going to go with false. I think both will be. And I know we disagree on the Cam Newton thing, but I think both will be on the Panthers next year.
The one to watch is McCaffrey. Because McCaffrey is going to want a new contract. We talked about this yesterday. McCaffrey's going to want a new contract. I don't think he's going to show up for anything until he gets the new contract. And depending upon what he wants, and whether or not the Panthers are willing to pay it. And who knows what their analytics people say about a running back. I mean, this guy's a running back and a receiver. He had 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving, one of the most, if not the most dangerous weapons in all of football. If he wants a ridiculous amount of money and the Panthers say we can't justify it and there's somebody else out there that makes them an offer they can't refuse, this could be a Khalil Mack situation all over again. So I'm not ready to say definitively, but between Newton and McCaffrey, I just think from a business standpoint, they got to keep one of them. So I won't say both. So I'll say false, but I think one of them is going to be gone, Big Cat.
And Mike, that's a great point by you, and I'll add to it the business standpoint with Christian McCaffrey. I have a couple friends who live in the Carolina area with kids, and he is the number one guy. Like, they love Christian McCaffrey. He sells the most jerseys probably now for the franchise. If you get rid of both of them, who is the face of the Carolina Panthers? You don't have one now. So I agree with you there. That's one of those costs of doing business. You might not want to give Christian McCaffrey a ton of money, but you kind of have to because you got to put people in the seats and you got to get people to watch and buy merchandise.
Yeah, Will Grier would become the face of the Panthers if they get rid of Cam Newton and Christian
they
McCaffrey.
lost
West Virginia
Luke Kuechly. Yeah, Luke Kuechly gone.
So they need to keep one or both of these guys, and I think McCaffrey's the one they need to find a way to keep, but they're going to need to find a way to pay him. All right, Joe Burrow says he's going to attend the 2020 draft if there ultimately is one, but that crosses over into things that we'd rather not talk about because we're here for diversion and a break from all the things that have people freaked out right now. True or false? There's no way he goes unless he knows for sure he's the number one overall pick.
I'm going to say false. I actually think he would have gone if he was top 5 pick, top 10 pick. I don't see this as true. I think he will be the number one pick, but if the implication here is that he has been completely guaranteed 100% that he is the number one pick, I'll push back on that, and that's the only reason he's going. I'll push back on that. I think he would go if he were a top 5 pick regardless.
Yeah, I agree with you because it's not like he's going to do an Aaron Rodgers, Brady Quinn slide, right? If he's not number one, he's going to be number 2. If he's not number 2, he's going to be number 3. His floor is number 5 to the Dolphins, and he ain't going to last that long. And that's always the key, understanding your floor. Your ceiling doesn't matter. Where's your floor? And the best agents do a very good job of finding out what their guy's floor really is and telling them this is your floor. Because how many times have we seen a guy plummet below where he thought he was going to go, all because his agents didn't do a good enough job figuring out which team was definitely going to take him if he was there. And I guarantee you the Dolphins will take Joe Burrow at number 5 if he is there. All right, one more, true or false. Despite the rumors, Washington will not pass on Chase Young in order to take Tua Tagovailoa. True or false?
I'm going to say, I'm going to say false because I don't know. I mean, I actually do think that taking a good hard look at Tua is not the worst idea for the Washington Redskins. You have to get a franchise quarterback. Dwayne Haskins has shown a couple flashes, but he's also shown some things that haven't looked good, and it's a numbers game, right? Like if they have Tua and Dwayne Haskins and they say, look, yeah, we just spent 2 first-round picks on franchise quarterbacks, quote-unquote, back-to-back years, okay, we might be, that might be crazy. That might be looked at as insane. But you know what it also will be? We'll be making sure that we get a franchise quarterback. So I wouldn't put it as a high probability, but I also wouldn't say that they're completely, set on Chase Young and there's no chance that they try to take Tua.
I agree with you completely, but I think a lot of this stuff about taking Tua is aimed at possibly trading down and getting – you have to know Tua inside and out in order to properly negotiate with whoever is trading up. That is a very common dynamic. Even if you don't want the guy, you need to know everything you can know because you're trading the player, not the pick. And this is their opportunity to turn the tables on what happened with RG3 8 years ago. And I think at some level, they're fascinated by the opportunity to stick it to someone else the way the Rams stuck it to them when they moved up. They gave up the 6th overall pick, 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder to make that move 8 years ago. This is an opportunity at revenge, not against the Rams, but against some other unsuspecting team that would jump up to number 2.
Here's the other thing. Let's throw out there, Mike, because the NFL is a copycat league. Teams will not do something if it's seen out of the box, if it's seen like something that's crazy. Well, guess what happened last year, Mike? The Arizona Cardinals traded the first-round pick that they had used the year before with Josh Rosen for Kyler Murray. Now, obviously, having the number 1 pick changes things, but you now have that blueprint there, and I think the Arizona Cardinals are probably pretty happy that they went down that path instead of saying the stubborn path where, hey, we picked this guy, we have to give him 3-4 years and see how it goes. So I think that adds a little wrinkle to it that we've seen it, that even if you have picked a franchise quarterback in the first round, if the next year there's a better guy ready to go and you can tell yourself this is the guy, you can cut bait and just go for it because that's the way to win football games.
And to put that one final point on it, the argument I made last year about the Cardinals, it's better to roll the dice on the potential transformational talent and get it wrong than to pass on him and to be that team that could have had him and didn't. That's the challenge for Washington and Tua. Excellent point. All right, before we go, let's finish where we started because we are getting some feedback about the Tom Brady coverage. You and I both believe it's good for business. This one comes from Steve. I won't use his last name. Channel turned to my lottery dream home. Tired of listening to the Tom Brady show, you bleeping bleep. So thank you for that feedback, Steve, I guess.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.